Actually, my office or center is next door. I manage the Instructional Resource Center, which is right next door. And we're going to look today over primary sources in technology. So, looking at looking at just a variety of things. But I want to start out talking to you about being a connected educator. There's lots of ways that you can connect outside even your school. And I know we've got some representatives, I think you guys are in Richmond County, and we've got some from McDuffie County, some that are just kind of new in. In a lot of places, even if you are in a larger county, you might be sometimes the only one at your school that teaches this particular content or a particular subject, or you may work in a setting, I'm not saying that any of you do, maybe sometime in the future, if it's not currently, to where you really don't have anyone that's really collaborating with you. Even though you may work together, and we all know we have collaborative planning and all those kind of things, but that it's just not the same. Sometimes you're not with like-minded people. And Twitter is a place where you can find more like-minded people if that's the case that you need it to be. And I really would encourage you to participate in some type of Twitter chat, or even using Twitter as a place of research and connecting. There are lots of different Twitter chats that are currently on, and I picked out a few that were dealing with social studies. Generally, Monday nights at 7 p.m. on Twitter, if you follow the hashtag SSChat, there is a chat that goes on every Monday at 7, which is a pretty active chat. Or if you're just looking for things, if you look with hashtag social studies, or if you're looking for Black history or history teacher, as well as just EdChat, those are some ways that you can find other people that more than likely are teaching what you're doing, or they're sharing resources or looking for resources that would be on those topics. I also have a link there to the educational chats. You should see somewhere near where you're sitting, there's a Post-it note, and it has my entire presentation on it. Feel free to use that. And it also has my contact info there. You're welcome to use that, and you'll have all of this stuff in. So here's what's going to be our plan today. That was my talk about Twitter chats. Google Plus is another place you can find communities on different things, but just really encourage that connectedness. All right, so session plan. We're going to look at some places to find primary sources. Then we're going to look at some tools for using primary sources, and then I'm going to throw in some bonus stuff, which doesn't have anything to do with primary sources. But anyway, that shouldn't have been on tape, should it? Just wait. All right, so let's look at some places to find primary sources. And our first one, of course, is going to be the Library of Congress. So if it's been a while since you checked in around, let's take a look at some of the things within the Library of Congress website. Of course, you can search it by anything in particular, but I want to point out just a few things. So I just went to loc.gov, and feel free if you want to go through as I am, but under education, so I'm just going to bring up to the education section. There's lots of different teacher resources. I'm going to come over and just look at some of the teacher resources in general. So here are some teacher resources. There are some documents about using primary sources and some different tools that you can use there. Other things, there's some classroom materials.
I'm sorry, I was looking at my computer and I missed how you got there.
Okay, so if you go to librarycongress.gov, loc.gov, and I also have the link in the presentation too. So you can look at that there, but from the Library of Congress, then you're going to notice, you'll see there's an area at the top that just says education. And then from here, there's lots of neat stuff that come out of here. So you're probably not going to be as interested in Poetry 180 or other things like that, but you might.
I didn't realize, was this supposed to be just for social studies teachers?
Well, it's just primary sources. So primary sources can be for anybody.
Right.
I am going to give more of a social studies slant, though.
Okay.
So,
I'm an English teacher.
English teacher? Okay, I think that you very well may be more on Poetry 180. I am going to focus a little bit more on going on the social studies side, but I think that it will go with a little bit of everything. So, in general, so there is Poetry 180, you've got read.gov, but where I went over was into just the area called Teacher Resources. And then from here you have a lot of different things. But one of the areas I like is this wait a minute, that's not what I wanted. Over on the left-hand side from here, and let me make this a little larger so you can see it a little bit better. You see where there is, that's not what I just clicked on it, sorry about that. There are also listed, under that area where we had under teachers, under that education section, there's an area called primary source sets. And this I found to be a good place to start with. So if you know that you're teaching on Abraham Lincoln, then it has a set that has all of these are dealing with Abraham Lincoln, and they're already correlated together. So it's an easier place, it's a good place to start. So all of these would be primary sources dealing with Lincoln. Other areas under here, so for example, where you're studying the Harlem Renaissance, these are all, and they're not all necessarily text. Some of them could be portraits. Some could, there could be images. There are audio files that are part of this. There are video files. Of course, we wouldn't necessarily have primary source video files from the Renaissance, but just in for this particular set. But it's just a kind of a compilation of things that Library of Congress has put together for you. So it's essentially a text set, or it's a primary set. So another link that we have here is just if you're looking for some places to look within Library of Congress. I have a link here which we went through and found some of the Georgia standards by grade level and found some text sets and kind of have them linked there for you. For example, some 912, I've got about a World War I set that has some various things, a Pearl Harbor set. There's just a group of those. Those are linked on there for you to look at. All right, so another great place. So we love Library of Congress. There's lots of neat things on there, lots of stuff I'm going to let you explore in just a few minutes. But Docs Teach kind of goes hands in hand with that. Come on in and join us. High school group? Yes. All right, just take a seat. So Docs Teach is another one. And what Docs Teach does is it is the National Archives. So we're another completely searchable site, but this one has a lot of more where you can take and search these things and then do different activities within the site. Let me see, do I have some? And there's also a Docs Teach iPad app. So if you're using iPads at your school, there's a free iPad app that goes along with Docs Teach. So a lot of these activities that I'm showing and that I'm about to show will be able to be used on an iPad or used from the computer. So within here, we can of course look and find. So this is docsteach.org, and there are so many activities in here. We can of course find primary source documents from within here. We can easily search this by historical era. We can also look for, if we're looking for a map or a written document, it has where we can break these down and look for something specifically. But one of the things I like best about Docs Teach is it not only has where you can find the primary sources, but it also has activities built in using those primary sources. So you can find activities or create your own. So I'm going to look at finding some of these activities. And you can search for specific activities that you're looking for. So if you're trying to develop chronological thinking and you're using, let's say, the Civil War, then we can instead of creating, let's go and search for an activity that uses those particular things, which of course it didn't find me. So let's find Civil War and let's see, the historical comprehension. It might be because I don't have anything to sit up there. Let's not do that way, and let me reset here, and let's just look at some of the activities that they have within here. So we're going to look at some of the, I know why it's not, because I haven't logged in. Let me log in here. It is free to have an account. If you create an account, you can then create and modify these your own. If you don't create an account, you can still use some of them, but you can't modify those. Let me log in right fast and to my account and let you look at some of these, and then I'm going to give you some time to play with them. There we are. Let's see if that makes a difference. All right, so we're going to search for some of these activities. So, an area that looks interesting to anybody? Which area would you like to look at? I'm sorry?
I'll just say post-war.
Post-war? Okay, we'll look at some of those. All right, so let's look at some of the activities. that are, actually I'm going to go into some of the featured activities. That way we make sure we get some good stuff. So here are some of the features. I'll look at some of the different types. This first one is a focus on details. And so this, you choose the document that you want, your primary source document from DocsTeach. Let's start the activity so you can see what it looks like. So you can either use this with your class just as it is, or you can modify it, make it your own. So here's the activity, and you've got the text here, and here are some questions that have been built in. What names do you see in this document? Are there any dates contained? Are there any locations? When was this document created? So essentially you can guide students to doing a close read of this document with just those questions. Some of the, there was just kinds of information. When you're done with this, you could actually, if you wanted students to answer those questions, they could actually type in their response in here and send it to you via email. That's the options that you get within that particular one. Other activities that were part of this, so that was a focusing on details. This particular one is called Making Connections. And so in the Making Connections one, here's the activity. It's loading, so just give it a second. This particular one has the different documents here, and then it'll pose a question. So the question here to begin with, what topic do the following 4 documents represent? So they could look at each of these 4, and note that you can zoom in. I'm not zooming in, but it can be zoomed in. So you could look and look and look, and then they would type in their answer here. Then they could go into, following the path, what's the next topic, and they type in their answer, and at the very end, when you do I'm done, it will send all of that information. They type in your email and send all that information to you via email. So, but there's different types of activities that are part of it. There's one, this is seeing as a big picture. I'm just going to show you a couple of these. So this activity is more of a matching style. So you're going to see a picture and some text, and you have to match those together, which ones match together. And it won't let you go on and, well, I guess it does tell you if you got them right or not. So it's definitely you match the picture with what you think the correct answer is, and if you get it right, great, and if you don't, you have to do it. And then underneath this, it will reveal a picture that has something to do with it. So that's why it's called the big picture. Coming into it. So there's others. There's another one that's called Weighing the Evidence, and so you put the evidence on one side and more evidence on the other, and you're weighing when that goes. So DocsTeach has a lot of really neat things, and again, there's also an iPad app. So if you choose to use one of these with the students, again, you can change it yourself or use it as it was. This has a unique URL, so you could place that on your website, or give that link to your students, and they were able to use that as it is. So let me give you a few minutes. Tell you what, let's take, I said 5 minutes, but let's take about 3 minutes. I'm going to stop it before it's over with. For you guys, actually I'll fast forward ahead of it. For you all to have a few minutes to look at Library of Congress or DocsTeach. You've seen me talk about it a bit.
You said you can search it even though you're not.
You can search it.
Okay.
Let me see. So right here it says Find Documents, or do you want to look at the activities?
Actually, what I took notes.
Okay, there you are. So you should be able to just do a search from the top.
Oh.
Okay, I just did go. Did it not show up anything when you did go? But it didn't show up anything. Was there something? What if we just do this? It's not showing anything there. Just see. Let's browse them instead of that, which you're looking at. Or if you want to just get on your video, and then we might be able to write it back. that sorted it by era for you, but you could do it by title either. You can see those. Well, you're doing an activity. You click right there to start the activity. Okay, this is one where, and of course you can click to do it, but really it's taking a document and matching it with which one makes is what's going on. So that is court record. And so, I mean, that would be your, yeah, you can look at details or you can go through and see testimony or see whatever. So which one would, so yeah, so you would take that and drag it to one of the squares or one of them. Yeah, so you have there, so you would drag it to the square down here, one of these two squares, and then you would choose which one of these, they're all about laws. Which one? So the one that matched that, you would drag to there, and if you got it right, then you would count as a batch. If not, it's going to come back up there and say try again. Now I haven't run the court case, so I can't tell you off the top of my head. But typically, it's going to be one of these, and then one with words to match the things. But you can set these up with whatever you're studying. So in any class whatsoever. And then so it's matching the primary source with the information. So it's just a matching activity. It's a good practice. I think Docs teaches only going to be American history. Library of Congress is going to be a little bit more. Are you ready? How did everybody do looking through it? Did it make sense? Yeah, well, and really, I know today we don't have time for you to become like an expert in any of them, but my goal is to expose you to a lot of different places that you can find primary sources. So here's a couple other places you can find some primary sources. One is a website called Eyewitness to History, and let's take a look at what that looks like. So Eyewitness to History is... when I look at it, it's not a very pretty site, I'm just going to say. But you can look at areas, say for example, if we're looking at World War II, you can kind of see by era. You can also search the site. There is a search bar. They're going to have just different types of, you're going to have some primary sources that come through, and you're seeing with those eyewitness accounts. So that's Eyewitness to History. Another one is National History Day. So National History Day, again, that's going to be more American history. And you're going to see as far as world history, but they have a ton of U.S. primary source documents that are linked from the site. There's some Civil War, African American history, Native American history. You can kind of look through the list. National History Day just links you to there's just a lot of places that are off of there that are linking you to places where you can find additional primary sources. The next one is the Civil War Trust, and Civil War Trust again. These primary sources are going to be mostly related to the Civil War, but I really like they have them sorted by some of the most popular. You can look at official records, inaugural addresses, but I mean, it's just a lot of different tools that are just in this website, and it's pretty clean as far as finding resources. Not a lot of ads or things like that are on the site. So Civil War Trust is another one. So there are. I looked up and I found 100 sites to find primary sources. There are lots of them out there. So maybe I've narrowed them down to 5 for you, instead of having to go through one of those lists that say, all these sites say. Library of Congress is great because it's probably our most reliable source of looking for primary sources. You're also going to see Docs Teach is going to have a lot if you're looking for American history, and also a lot of interactive activities with it. Then you have Eyewitness to History, National History Day, and Civil War Trust. I'm going to show you another area with Library of Congress stuff, though. It's the primary source analysis tool. And this is on the Library of Congress website. And you can get to it from the Using Primary Sources section that we were on. We were on Using Primary Sources. And down here right here it has, well, that's not it. Let's see, I should look on my screen so that there with you all. So we have, let me go back to where I was. So we have the analysis tool is under that teacher section. You can get to it.
I saw it.
You saw it?
Mm-hmm.
All right. I know I had to get there
It's
from
the
it.
last, in the blue box.
There it
the
is.
last one.
Teacher's Guides and Analysis Tools. That's it. Okay. And so then it has, there are some example analysis down here, and we'll look at that in a second. But this is the primary source analysis tool. So honestly, it's a typing template. If you have a primary source that students are going through, there's questions and things you can ask. And so they can type in what they observe, what they reflect, what their questions are, what their further investigation is. And then from here, it can download as a PDF, whatever you type in, can be printed out or no. So it's just it's just a place to, the analysis tool is a typing template. But what I like better than that is the examples that they give. So also on that same page, if you're looking at analyzing photographs and prints, if you look on this, so I think as a teacher tool, this is even better than, maybe you want your students to use the typing template. That might help them as they're organizing their thoughts. But I think for you finding questions to ask, this is better. So for observe, have student identify and note details. Describe what you see. What do you notice first? You know, what people or objects are shown, how are they arranged? So these are those questions you can ask for observe. Here's some questions for reflect, questions for question. And then for further investigation, here's a question you can ask within that. And those are specific to the type of, there's different questions based on, well, are you analyzing a map, or are you analyzing a photograph, are you analyzing a speech? So those are just some of those questions. What size and shape is the map? I mean, those kind of things are listed in there. So that primary source analysis tool is a good one. Another one is the document analysis worksheets. Now this is from the National Archives. So Docs Teach had all the activities that were from the National Archives. This is just going in to the National Archives. And they have their own analysis worksheets that are part of that. So let's say we're looking at a cartoon. And so here is a worksheet that can be typed straight in and then printed or saved as a PDF. So list the objects or people you see in the cartoon. Identify those cartoons. So it's level 1 questions, level 2 questions, and level 3 questions. So, for example, level 3, explain the message of the cartoon.
How do you save it?
So it has print to the form. So what you would need, if you're using Google Chrome or you're using, I'm just going to put some text in each of these. Actually,
I
down there at the bottom, did you see the save?
Sure did. Okay.
It's a PDF form is what it is.
Okay.
So it can be saved and then it can be sent or uploaded if you're using Edmodo or Moodle or Google Classroom. You can upload and save into those, which is pretty neat. Then they can send it in. But those document analysis worksheets from the National Archives, and there's ones for each one of them, because I think oftentimes it's okay, we want to use the primary source, but what questions should we be asking? What are some? So these would be some places to guide your questioning, especially if you're a little unsure of what questions you should ask. Okay, so other resources would be some places to find lessons that you might use primary sources with. So Edcitement is one of those, and Edcitement is from I think it's the National Foundation of the Humanities. Just don't hold me on that one. They've got a variety of lessons here, and you can search by grade band. So we can look at 9-12 specifically. You can even look how many class periods are you looking to teach this lesson on. You know, I want it to be 2 class periods. I can even choose, do I want it to use must include some type of worksheet or something within it. And I can even select a subtopic. I'm looking for it to be on prehistoric history. So, actually, let's take the 2 class periods off. So I can look through and find a specific theme or whatever I'm looking for. So that is Edcitement, and then finding lessons and things. And they usually tell you how many class periods is it looking to take. So They embed in, I believe there's over 400 resources that are, no, it is over 400 resources that are part of Excitement. The next one for us to look at is Reading Like a Historian. And Reading Like a Historian is from the Stanford History Education. And what Reading Like a Historian is a process. It's kind of like a process or a strategy that you can use of teaching students to think like a historian does and read like a historian. So there are lessons specifically for U.S. history and world history. And looking at, so if we're doing a lesson plan on Pocahontas, for example, that's one of them. It's just going to walk you through designing those lessons and using those with that historical mindset in, and looking at how to read and teaching students how to work through like if they were a historian. So next one is one called Teaching History. It's from teachinghistory.org. There's lots of teaching materials on this particular site. Specifically, so looking at best practices, but some teaching materials in general, as well as things, other information from there. So under teaching materials, there's lots of lesson plans, and it's completely a searchable site of finding those resources. Another activity is this one from, again, the National Archives, and it's finding primary sources. And this is just simply, I threw it in, this is not a place to find necessarily lesson plans, but it is an activity.
The last one was teachinghistory.org?
Yes, .org. Teachinghistory.org. And then finally, this one was finding primary sources. And this was just an activity of finding how to walk through and teaching students how they can find primary sources. Pretty good activity, again, from the National Archives, archives.gov. That's where that one came from. All right, would you like some time to explore some of these? Okay, all right, let's take another 3 minutes or so. I know, again, that's not going to be so long. Wait a minute. Actually, we give you just a couple of minutes because we only have 10 minutes left. Tell you what, would you be okay if I shared with you a few more things and you explored it later? Okay, because I'm looking at our time. We only have 10 minutes left, so I want to continue to, I'm going to share with you a few other things. I think you might find some of these other useful. Okay, so other things, timeline creators. A lot of times when you're doing things with primary sources, you might want to use a timeline or have students create a timeline, filling in information with primary sources or with other information. So one of these is, this is Tiki-Talkie Timelines. Has anybody used Tiki-Talkie before? It is let me close some of these tabs that I've got open. All right, so they're just really pretty timelines it's easy to build. It's web-based. Here is one this is just one of their example ones. But you can see across the bottom is the timeline, and then you can add as much or as little information in here as you would like. They'll let you this one, significant influences, but they'll let you put in links, they'll let you put in pictures, and a little blurb that would go along with each part. So that's Tiki-Talkie. If you're interested in doing timelines, another way you can do timelines.
I'm sorry, is it printable?
I think it's web viewable. This one's just going to be web-based.
Okay.
They're going to have to create it on the internet, and then it's just going to be viewable. You'll get your own unique URL. So it is. This particular one's not going to. I don't think this is going to print very well.
Would students be able to save it to their hard drive or something? Or?
They would create an account, and they could view it on and work on it on the website. And then, as far as if you're worried about turning it into you, they would send you the link, give you that link of what it would. Whether they could create a QR code with the link or send you the link in general. All right, this next one though is printable, and this is making a history timeline with QR codes. So what I've done is I've created a template, and the template is on here, and you'll have a link to it. So actually, this template is in Google Slides. If you would prefer to use a template in PowerPoint, you could actually just do File and make a copy of it. So let me show you what the template looks like. Let's come back here, let you see the template here. This is the template. If you wanted to use it, you would do File and make a copy, and then simply just put the QR code and change the dates or whatever with it. Or if you would rather do this in PowerPoint, you can do File, Download As, a PowerPoint, and you can get it that way. And all those directions are down here in the notes. You can kind of see those in there. And then they would take in each one of these.
I'm sorry, I don't know what a QR, or those little boxes.
Those little boxes are QR codes. And so if you have a QR reader, whether it's on a phone or a tablet, if you scan each one of these, it's going to take you to some event that happened during that year of the Civil War. So some of these could be to a website. It could be to a video. For example, you say 1954. That is not, currently Civil War, American Civil War. 1954 is actually an interview of a Civil War survivor. Is actually that's what that is going through, but it's still it would fit along. It was characterized by it. So students would find the resources, and then they would create QR codes. And using websites like GoQR or GoQR.me is a site where. So if you found your resources, so you found, I went to this website or wanted to have this text, if it was text, they could type the text in and it would develop a QR code, and then you would just insert it in the Google Slides in the template there. Or if it was to a website, you paste the website link there, and it generates a QR code for you that when you scan it would go to those sites. So creating something like this. This particular one was done in less than 45 minutes it was created by a student who had never created a QR code before, but they had been learning about the Civil War history, and so they had 45 minutes, that was the max time I gave them, to find their web resources and create their QR code and create the timeline there. So just a little bit of different project. Other sites and things, I know this morning there was a big talk about reflection. And one of the ways of getting students to reflect is through blogging and having them record their reflections. We can, of course, reflect and have students turn things into us, but when we put things that are public or that our classmates, we know our classmates are going to read, students usually put a little more effort into what they're writing. So whether you're using Blogger or KidBlog, those are some good places for blogs. There's also blogs built in. You can add a blog to Google Sites where students could create and actually use that as a portfolio, or websites in general to create information. But students blogging is actually and their blogs or blogs in general, depending on our time and our place with it, are primary sources if it's from their own experience. So we can't even get those in there. But all of them that I have up here have all free components to that, and all good sources to remember. Other things that you can have students do is, they've had the experience and now we need to tell about it. And one is creating digital posters. So we've done timelines kind of record, blogging, and just websites let us reflect, but using this digital posters. And a lot of people know about Glogster. Any of you use Glogster? Okay. Glogster.com is usually blocked in most schools, but if you do Glogster edu or edu.glogster.com, that's typically open most places. So you can create a digital poster. That's what Glogster does. It's a digital poster. You can embed websites. You can put in videos, pictures. A lot of things that we would do in the traditional, it takes the traditional poster, which is typically flat, and it has just images and text. But then here we can bring in audio, video, and a lot of different things. And then these, they could be printed, but really the point of the Glogster is it is digital. And that's part of the beauty of that. So you could link them on your website, and so that they can house your information there. Another one is doing digital posters with Google Drawings. Yes, ma'am.
I just had a question in regards to the digital poster. Would it be anything close to doing a portfolio as well? I mean, can you do it like that too?
If you're going to do a portfolio, I probably would use something like a Google Site or a Live Binder. And I'll show you some Live Binders in just a minute that would be a little bit more of that. Yeah, I got to speed through, but that's okay. We may go a few minutes over. Google Drawings are another one. And I'm a Google certified teacher. I'm a big Google fan. But it still is. This is just using a Google Drawing. A student created this one. Talking about We the People, it has a link to a video that's in here, but also some images and more like a graphic organizer of things. But It's definitely the drawing in there. You could also do a single slide, Google slide presentation, or even PowerPoint to make a poster. We don't think about using things like presentation software as a poster. And in fact, with any of those, if you click on when you're creating something new, file. Let me see. I'll have to make a copy. I can do from here. If you do, let me make a copy of this one. With these things, whether it's PowerPoint or you're using Google Slides, if you go in and you change it, your page setup to a custom setup, so it's 8.5 by 11, it's just like a sheet of paper. If you're wanting them to be 11 by 17, change it 11 by 17, or however size you want to. And then if you're printing it out, it will print as that large format if you wanted to. But a single slide can be a poster. You can go that in that way. Another website that's good with us is ThingLink. And ThingLink might be better for, it might be a portfolio. And the way ThingLink works is you have an image, and then you create these hot spots on there, which could be text, or it could be text, it could be video, it could be each one of those brings to something else. So ThingLink is a pretty good is a good one another one for that kind of poster idea. But other tools that you can use, getting to students to publish what they're learning, and here's some publishing tools. One of those live binders, that's one of my favorites for, let me show you an example of a live binder that can be used as sort of a portfolio or to share all the things they've learned. Now these are none that I've created or students of mine have created, these are just things I've found just by doing essential work. But this was I believe I read somewhere, this was a group project of students. So here's their introduction. They've got a presentation about the life of a soldier. Then they've put together a photo gallery of photos. And these are all photos from National Archives that you're seeing in here. They put together a timeline of events that are just different pages within the live binder. Video clips, graphic organizer, references. I won't go through all of this, but you have those links. So this could be, live binders can be a way of a place of publishing. Another one is just a common one is Fakebook. Fakebook is a tool of ClassTools.net, and here is a fake book, so it's going off a Facebook idea of Abraham Lincoln that students have created. So they can put in a date and time, and their statement of what the character would, or the historical figure would have been, and then, or character, depending on what you're studying, and then what others would have replied to it, and what their thoughts would have been. And people can like it or not like it. And there was one that I had seen, not this particular one, but it talked about Abraham Lincoln, and it was the night of his assassination, and it's like, I think I'm going to the theater tonight, and I need to go there like I need a bullet in my skull. And so it kind of a little morbid there, but had some different things within it. But you can see there. So Fakebook assignments. Another one is Powtoon. I've got a Powtoon video. Powtoon's one that I recently discovered and we really like. I really turned to liking Powtoon. It's another way of publishing things. It's really important for our students to get that voice. And so here is a Powtoon. I'll pull this up. It's very short. Oops. Well, I said I was going to pull it up. Let's try that again. So there's a little bit of sound with it. So this, you can't hear the narration.
The king's finance minister told the king's idea to the governor in the colony.
I think I have it up twice, so that's what's going on. Alright, so I'm going to pause it because it is playing twice. But you can kind of get the idea. It's an animated style video. There's something else playing in the background. Let me go on. I've almost done. Let me come out with one more thing. Alright, I was going to give you time to explore, but here's a couple of bonus ones. I don't know that I have time for it. This is officially your break time, so if you need to run before you go to the next one, feel free, but I'm going to throw in a couple of others. So we looked at things, primary sources, some lesson plans. Now here's just some bonus stuff. especially if teaching social studies in general. One of them is for teaching geography is a site called GeoGuessr. Have any of you seen GeoGuessr before? GeoGuessr shows you 5 images. This one's just for fun. 5 images, and you have to choose where in the world you think this image was taking place. So it can be anywhere in the world. And so you have your map over here where you think it was taken. I'm going to guess, I don't know. I'm just going to put a guess and make a guess here. And then it's going to tell you where it was actually taken. So I chose in Canada. It was actually in South America. You get points based on what you think. That doesn't look like anywhere around here. So I'm just going to make a guess. And it was actually on, it looks like Ireland. So you can look through and you make the guess, but this could bring up, I'm just really not looking that closely. Yeah, I'll really mess that one up. And then we can make this in here. So this is just general. One more time. Alright, so I did horrible. I didn't do very well at all. It hit me my thing. So I can play the same map again, or I can get me another map within GeoGuessr. But they've just added some new features. So where you can play it for necessarily the world, you can use Asia, specific cities, countries in Europe. But if you wanted to create your own GeoGuessr-like activity, you can use GeoSetter, and so you can just customize it to the lesson that you're teaching, asking students to kind of guess where are we around, or looking at different tools in there. I've also got my Map Engines Lite, but I'm going to skip that one. One of my friends, Amy Burball, is part of the History Teachers channel. There was a group of teachers that created this, and there's a channel link. But what they've done is taken popular songs and created parodies with those of history. For example, this is Henry VIII to Money, Money, Money by ABBA. And they have a lot of those different parodies on there, so those are kind of some fun ones. I'll just play a little bit of it. Pretty close. And he just goes on through Henry had so many wives, and it talks about each one of them. So anyway, there's lots of those different ones, and I know I'm completely out of time. I threw you in a few more bonus resources there at the end, but if I